What's going on, YouTube? Mr. Wheels here once again, welcoming you to part 3 of my 2015-2016 NHL season preview. Looking at the Central Division tonight, that means we're going to be starting with the Stanley Cup champions in 2015, the Chicago Blackhawks. Before I get started, remember to give this video a like. Please subscribe to my channel. I could really appreciate the support. My social media links will be down in the description below. Twitter and Facebook. You can now find me on Dailymotion, and part 1 and part 2 of this NHL season preview will be in the description. The Atlantic Division and the Metropolitan Division. Let's get started with tonight's episode. Now, Chicago won the Cup last year. 48-28-6 was their record. Won their third Stanley Cup in 5 years. You know, and the media was hyping it as a historic win. I'm sure their fans are thinking they're already a dynasty. But let me just point out, a true dynasty is 4 Stanley Cups. That means 4 in 4 straight years, 4 in 5 years, 4 in 6 years, or specifically if you're talking about the 1980s Edmonton Oilers, it was 5 Cups in 7 years. So Chicago would have to repeat for them to be a true dynasty, and that's not my opinion. That's always been the NHL standard, 4 Cups or more in, a very short period of time, which Chicago is well on their way. Now, they have lost some key pieces. They traded away Brandon Saad, but they got back Artur Anisimov and Marco Dano from Columbus. Patrick Sharp and Johnny Oduya went to Dallas. Antoine Vermette went back to Arizona. He didn't really fit in Chicago like people thought he would. Brad Richards went to Detroit. Michael Roosevelt is also gone. They did add on defense Trevor Daley and Ryan Garbutt. They will add some stability to the top D pair of Keith and Seabrook. Nick Chalmerson is still there. Trevor Daley will probably play with him. Chicago's defense is still going to be good. I'm not a Corey Crawford fan, but, as you can see, he is able to get the job done. Chicago blocks a lot of shots, so they won't have too many problems there. In my opinion, Chicago is still a playoff team, still a cup contender, and as long as they avoid the dreaded Stanley Cup hangover, they are definitely a cup contender and a threat to repeat. Let's move on to St. Louis, shall we? St. Louis was 51-24-7 last season. They won the division, but they have a bunch of question marks around this team for this season. Ken Hitchcock hasn't really got it done lately. I mean, St. Louis is one of those teams that a lot of people, for some reason, if you check other NHL season preview videos, a lot of people are hyping them. NHL Network is hyping them to be a cup contender, but Ken Hitchcock, if they don't do well at the start of the season, he could be gone. They added some pieces, but I don't think they've done enough. Troy Brouwer, Andre Benoit, Kyle Brodziak, Jamie Caron. They lost TJ Oshie, Zbynek Mahalik, Barrett Jackman, Marcel Gotch, and Olli Jokinen. And I mean, you might not think that that's significant, but I don't think they're going to be as physical a team to play against. They're going more of a finesse style now, if you think about who is there. And the biggest question is, how are they going to deal with the injury problems that they already have? 2 key centers for the Blues are out. Patrick Berglund needs shoulder surgery, and Yuri Latera is also injured. Both of those guys won't be there for the start of the season, so that could hurt the Blues, moving forward and throughout the season. So the Blues on paper really should be a playoff team, but I don't know right now. I mean, the Central Division is arguably the best division in the NHL, so if they struggle at the start of the season, they could miss the playoffs in the long run. I want to say they're a playoff team, but I really can't say that definitively. Let's move on to the Nashville Predators. They were 47, 25, and 10 last season. That was second in the division. Lost in the first round to Chicago. They were first in the division until March. They've lost some. They've lost a lot of key guys, and I don't know that they've added enough to replace the guys that they lost. Barrett Jackman, Cody Hodgson, and Max Reinhart all joined the team. But I really question, is that enough to keep them moving forward? Can they build on last year's success? They lost Cody Franzen, but he really didn't fit in well in Nashville. Matt Cullen is gone. Antoine Volchenkov and Mike Santorelli are also gone. So, I mean, they lost some of their depth is really what I'm trying to say. But the question with the team is, can they take the next step? Can they push for the playoffs this season? Can they push for a division title and ultimately be a cup contender? I don't know. And I think they will get a divisional playoff spot. But, other than getting to the second round of the playoffs, any further than that, I don't see it really happening. So they're a playoff team, but not a cup contender in my opinion. But they could be moving in the right direction. And if they're in a playoff spot come the trade deadline, that would be the time to add to their team and make that playoff push. They got a very good goaltender in Pekka when he's healthy. They got a very good defense. Shea Weber and Seth Jones are the catalysts for their defense. So they're moving in the right direction. But I don't see them being a cup contender this year. Now let's move on to a team that is, in my opinion, very overhyped and may miss the playoffs completely. The Minnesota Wild. 46, 28, and 8 last season. Lost in the second round to Chicago for the third straight year. Biggest thing that can't happen to this team this year, they can't struggle at the start of the season like they did last year. People are hyping them to be a playoff team, a cup contender, to possibly win the division. They have to be that team if they're going to be successful. And I don't see it happening because they lost some guys. And yes, they do have some youth and some guys that are coming up. But I think they're still too young to really be the team that people think they are. They lost Keith Ballard, Kyle Brodziak, Chris Stewart, Jordan Leopold, Josh Harding. Besides Josh Harding, I mean, everybody they lost, in my opinion, was, a veteran and would have helped those young guys. If they would have kept those guys, or at least some of them, they might be the team that people think they are. But I don't think this team is as good as people say they're going to be. They did add Matt Riley. I don't even know who that is. Tyson Strachan. And Zach Dallup. I mean, those guys are role players at best. I know they got Mikko Koivu and Zach Parise, and they got Devin Dubnyk. I mean, is Devin Dubnyk really going to turn out to be not a fluke like I think he is? I mean, who knows? Minnesota, I see them getting probably the third divisional spot at best. But more of a wild card spot, probably because the Central is tough. I expect Chicago to win the division, even with the guys they lost. Dallas could be in that second spot. So with other teams in the Pacific Division also getting better, Minnesota could be on the outside looking in. So only time will tell. Let's move on to the Winnipeg Jets. They were 43, 26, and 13 last season. They lost in the first round to Anaheim. Those games were close, but not good enough. Now, the Jets re-signed Alexander Burmistrov, who was playing in Russia. They added Matt Fraser and Andrew McWilliam, but they lost a lot of their scoring depth. Yuri Tlusny, Michael Frolik, Lee Stepniak, TJ Goliardi, all of those guys are gone, and I really, they still got a decent team. Still got an alright defense. Jacob Trouba and guys like Mark Scheifele are young players still developing. They're moving in the right direction in a way, but I really don't see them making the playoffs unless it's the wild card, and it's going to be tough. So I'm going to say no playoffs for Winnipeg because I just think it's going to be too hard to get out of their division. Let's move on to Dallas. They were 41, 31, and 10 last season. That was sixth in the division. They missed the playoffs, and really they were too talented of a team to really miss the playoffs. But they've gotten better this season, and they're probably the one team in the Central that has improved the most. They added Antti Niemi, Patrick Eaves, Patrick Sharp, and Johnny Oduya. Patrick Sharp could be playing with Jamie Benn and Tyler Seguin. Antti Niemi, he's a veteran. Yeah, he's a little bit older, but he's some insurance in net to push Kari Lettman. Johnny Oduya adds some veteran leadership to a otherwise young defense. So Dallas is going to be pretty competitive. They did lose Trevor Daley, Ryan Garbutt, Jonas Enroth, Sean Horkoff, and Rich Peverly. But those guys were, really guys that they needed to get rid of and aren't going to hurt the team moving forward. They got better offensively, better defense this year, better in goal. I see Dallas, best case scenario, getting second in the division, possibly first. It is a possibility if they really turn some heads. But I think no worse than that third divisional spot. Worst case scenario, in my opinion, they are definitely a wild card team, and they will possibly contend for a cup. We'll see. Playoffs, yes. Any more than that remains to see how the season goes. And finally, let's talk about Colorado. A lot of people are writing this team off, I've seen, and they had a horrible season last year, but if they could have a season like they did 2 years ago where they really turned some heads, they could really do some damage, and they are not as bad as people think, and I'm telling you that right now. They were 39, 31, and 12 last season. They missed the playoffs, but they added Carl Soderberg, Francois Beauchemin, Nikolai Zardev, Mikhail Grigorenko, and Blake Como. They got better on the wing. They got a veteran defenseman in Beauchemin, who, as long as Beauchemin isn't counted on to play like 20 to 25 minutes every game and is just there to, help their young defenseman develop, he should be very effective. Now, I will say he didn't work out in Toronto when he was there a number of years ago because he was relied on too much. But any time during his 2 stints in Anaheim, he's been very effective because he's had some help. So he doesn't have as much help in Colorado defensively, but he is a good veteran presence. And, I mean, Carl Soderberg's going to help an already good offensive team. And the 2 Russian players are good prospects that will continue to develop. I mean, Colorado is not really a physical team. They're more of a finesse, speed team. And they lost a lot of guys that I think were cancerous to their locker room. Ryan O'Reilly, Jamie McGinn, Daniel Briere, Jan Hayda, Ryan Wilson, all of those guys are gone. So, you know, if this team uses their speed, if Nathan McKinnon has a bounce back year, I mean, they've got the offense to compete. It's whether they can cut down on the shots. They can't give up 30 plus shots a game. If they do those things and steadily improve, in my opinion, they'll be there in the end. They might do better than a team like St. Louis, who has injury problems at the start of this year. I think they're better offensively than Minnesota. I think they have better goaltending when Varlamov's at his best. So what I'm trying to say is there is a very good chance for Colorado. More of a wild card team, a bubble team. But, I mean, I don't see them missing the playoffs this year like everybody else does. That's all I have, guys. That wraps up part 3. Hope you'll stay tuned in the next couple days for part 4, the Pacific Division. Remember to give this video a like. Links are in the description. I'll see you next time.